Hey guys, welcome back to Pixel Cherry Ninja's channel. I have recently acquired my Analogue Pocket after 11 months of waiting. I ordered it on December the 14th and I received it around mid-November, just a few days ago. So I'm really impressed with it. I really like it. But in the 11 months I didn't have the device, but I had pre-ordered it. I was reading online other people's experiences, and one thing that kept cropping up was the D-pad, how bad it was. People playing Contra where they're trying to crouch and they're walking forward and shooting down. Tetris, another one where they're trying to slam a block down and it's going slightly to the left to the right. Now I've got a number of Game Boys. I was actually thinking of cancelling my pre-order. I'm glad I didn't now, because I'm glad of all the open FPGA cores that are out there. But I like the original DMG. I like the controller on that. I've tried the original ones and I've got some aftermarket ones in there. Even the aftermarket ones are good. I can play Street Fighter on the Game Boy Color. I can play it on the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, so I'm happy with the D-pads I've got. So I wanted to test this one out. But what we're going to do, we're going to start by looking at a really bad D-pad. I just want to use that as an example. But yeah, and I'm going to try and do like real life game scenarios, so things that we would experience kind of firsthand ourselves. So you're never going to have any issues playing Pokemon or an RPG, but it's more like games that require reflexes or combos or tricky executions. There might be trickier ones out there, but I've kind of gone with a variety of the games that I play, and hopefully, you know, I'll cover this comprehensively. You know, if before we start the video, if you wanna subscribe to the channel for more analog content, then go ahead and do that. That would be really appreciated. But let's go ahead and get into this, and yeah, we'll start with the first game. Guys, an example of a bad D-pad. Now this is the Razer Kishi. This is my wife's old Pixel 3. She smashed the screen. You can see it in the top left corner there. She smashed it and she was like, oh honey, I broke the phone. And I was like, you know what, don't worry about it. I ordered a new phone and I thought to myself, I'll buy myself a controller and maybe do some gaming, just because of one of the things is you can stream games, or you can stream your phone screen live on Twitch. So I thought, let me do it. I can't even demonstrate how bad this is. But for example, now on this, this is Contra, the Game Boy Advance version running. When you hold down, you literally have to aim down like very specifically, like you literally have to aim down. If it's slightly to the left or slightly to the right, he starts going in, you start getting the bottom corner directions. Now I can't demonstrate that well here, but honestly, when you're playing this, it's terrible. When you're playing Street Fighter, sometimes you think you're blocking, but it's actually registering as back instead of down back. Like this is the Razer Kishi. It was like £80 to buy, and honestly, like, it's the D-pad on it is crap. There's no better way of saying it. It is just complete and utter rubbish. The analog sticks, the triggers, the buttons are actually decent, but I bought it for playing retro games, and it was a bit of a waste. And one of the reasons I bought this controller was because it's you know, you can plug it, you can actually charge your device while using it. A big waste of money. I've kind of left it, but this is an example of a bad D-pad. Like if you're trying to play like retro games, or if you're trying to play like Mario, Contra, Street Fighter, honestly, the D-pad it's terrible. Like it's so bad. I actually prefer playing games on the analog stick as opposed to the D-pad, and I guess that's saying something. But let's move on to the Analogue Pocket. I just wanted to give you an example of a bad D-pad, so just kind of have this in mind when we're doing when we're looking at the Analogue Pocket D-pad. Right guys, the first game we're looking at is Shadow Dancer. As you can see, I'm pressing it down there and I'm holding down for a bit as well, and the input is registering correctly. Then I'm moving up and he's looking up. So so Shadow Dancer, it is one of those games that if you move it diagonally down, the ninja will do like a crouch walk, same as Shinobi. But on Analogue Pocket, I'm moving it straight down. I'm having absolutely no issues with it. The joypad is accurate, it's good. I'm not getting any accidental diagonals. So in Shadow Dancer now, I'm just hitting the diagonals and I'm trying to just crouch walk, and then it's working decently. Not really having any issues. There's a bit there where you see his kind of sprite like go up before he crouches, but I think that's just me and the way I'm playing it. But yeah, generally the crouch walking, it's good. It's clean. Okay, moving on to Contra, a game that My Life in Gaming featured, and one of the things that had me concerned about the Analogue Pocket when they got their Analogue Pocket. Now, I don't know if Analogue have done some under the hood changes or they've improved the D-pad design. I don't remember anything being said. If there was, then let me know in the comments. But I remember them specifically pointing out Contra on the Game Boy and saying that when they move it down, they keep getting a diagonal input. I had no such thing. As you can see there, I'm moving it down, I'm moving it up, and it's clean. I'm getting down clean, I'm getting up clean. Like really impressed with my D-pad so far. Down and up clean, no diagonals, literally like no diagonals. And I can't tell you how chuffed I am with that. Like, if that was going into diagonals, then that would limit what I could play and have kind of fun with. I'd have a great device, but then I'd have to limit the kind of, or the type of games I'm playing on there. But Contra, down, up, yeah, no issues. Okay, so our next test for Contra, what I'm doing is I've got, hopefully you can see that clearly, but I've got my thumb on the bottom of the D-pad and I'm just kind of waving it left and right just to see at what point it will kind of like move. And to be honest, it's decent until unless I really move it over and go over towards the left, it kind of holds it. So if you remember at the beginning when we saw that Razor Kishi, I was literally getting diagonals by tilting it like a little bit, but that's really solid. So down, like, you know, if you're playing something and you're a bit tense and you're whacking down, and if you hit, like, so if you imagine the down direction's got two corners, the left side and the right side. If you were to hit one either side, you know, unless you're going more towards the actual left, you're not really gonna get that diagonal down input, because in Contra, if we got a diagonal down, he'll be running either you know, with his gun pointing left with his gun pointing down towards the floor and running in the direction that you've got the diagonal in. So yeah, really impressed with that. It's, you know, you're not going to get too many, you're not going to get, well, really any accidents with that. I'm wondering whether this is just my unit, whether this is all the units, but hey, like, so far so good. Right, finally, let's just have a look at the diagonals on Contra. So diagonals are cool. Like, I don't have any issues with them. They're actually all right, whether it's the top corners or the bottom corners. I'm tapping it there, and yeah, it's good. I'm just making sure I've obviously got the down or the up followed with like the left or the right combined. And yeah, man, Contra is very fun, very playable. Again, I'll say, I don't know if Analogue have improved it. Let me know in the comments, you know, what you think. Or I'd really be interested. Can you do this if you're a person with one of like the early Analogue Pockets? Were you getting the clean down and up directions? Let me know below, guys. Okay, next up, let's have a look at Street Fighter. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to try and attempt. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do like a flying kick, hard kick, followed by like a crouching medium kick into fireball. Then I'm going to go for a super. Then I'm going to go for 5 dragon punches in a row, and I'm going to end it with a hurricane kick. So let's see if that was successful. Okay, first one, all right. Got that combo, got the super. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 consecutive dragon punches, hurricane kick. Yeah, man. It's decent for Street Fighter. Like, it's okay. One thing I have to point out, and I'm really sorry I didn't actually film it, even though I'm getting these combos off, the issue that I had was when I was playing a match, when I was jumping forward with Ryu, sometimes I would just get a jump up. Now, I don't know if that was my execution or just the way I was playing it, but obviously I've played this on like other pads. I generally play it on an arcade stick, but I played it on like the 8-bit Dpad, and I played it on a Vita pad, and yeah, I can get the moves off on that, and I can always like jump back and jump forward without any issues. On this one, I was having a little bit of issues jumping forward, but not a deal breaker. I think I can actually like adjust for that. But Street Fighter's fine on this. In regard to play, like, this is the Game Boy version, so it's only got 4 buttons. So what I've done is I would map L and R to the face button, so all 4 of the Game Boy buttons would be on the front. But if I was playing like a 6-button Street Fighter, I'm not very comfortable using the shoulder buttons at the back. I don't think they're that comfortable. I don't think they're that good for Street Fighter games. They're okay for other games, but we'll go into a shoulder button test like later, but not something that I'm very keen on. Okay, so after trying that Street Fighter, I wanted to try something in regard to its execution, something a little bit harder. That's what she said. But anyway. Okay, so I wanted to try Terry Super, which is quarter circle back, half circle forward. I wasn't getting it all the time. I wasn't getting it consistently, but I was getting it out. So maybe if I break in my D-pad or just get kind of used to this D-pad, yeah, it's decent. In fact, like, I would actually compare this D-pad similar to, I don't know if anyone's got a Switch. If you've got a Switch and you bought like a Hori left Joy-Con, whether you bought like the big one or just the smaller ones they've done earlier, the D-pad feels very similar to that. I've just thought of that as I'm actually doing it in this video. I would have mentioned it sooner. But if you've got like a Hori left Joy-Con, that's the closest thing I can compare the Analogue Pocket D-Pad to. But quarter circle back, half circle forward, not the easiest motion, so it's coming out, which is decent. I mean, you know, if I've had bad D-pads, I wouldn't be able to do that on a Kishi. I probably won't even be able to do that move on a Steam Deck, on a Steam Deck's D-pad, which I don't think is a good D-pad. And like, I've had devices like the One X Player where, forget that, I can't even do a fireball, so that move would be impossible. But hey man, if you want to play King of Fighters, you know, it's the D-pad's decent for that. Like, I'm pulling the moves out, and I'm sure you guys are probably better than me, and you'll have a better success rate. Next thing I wanted to try was Tetris. As mentioned when I was waiting for my Analogue Pocket, someone specifically mentioned Tetris, and they said, you know, every time they were trying to slam a block down, I don't know what version of Tetris they were playing, or which one it was exactly. I'm playing the original Tetris here, but this is actually a ROM hack, so it's got added quality of life changes in there, like you know, you can press select to kind of reserve the block. You can press up just to slam it straight down. Now, I was playing Tetris. If there's anything bad in there, it's because I meant to do it. Everything I meant to do came out. I had absolutely no issues with it. Left, right, I'm moving it up, and I'm not getting any diagonals or anything. So Tetris, a complete success. But this was one of the things that I heard, and I was like, oh man, I can't even play Tetris on this thing. But no, that's completely incorrect. D-pad's good. I can play Tetris. It's working really, really well. Okay guys, so if you played the Mario games growing up, as I'm sure many of you did, myself included, this was one of my favorite games, Super Mario World. Absolutely love this game. Now, when most of you play, if you look at my thumb on the right hand side, when you're playing Mario Brothers, I can't so much do it, you know, run through the game like that anymore, but you generally want to hold down the run button, and then what you're doing is you're pressing jump with kind of like the bottom part, yeah, you know, not the main part of your thumb, like underneath it. So I've got my finger constantly held on run, and I'm kind of flapping my thumb down to hold jump, and it works well with Super Mario World. I'm not going to have any issues playing Super Mario World on this. It plays well. Yeah, man, I can do the run. I can tap it. I can tap jump while holding down run with just my thumb, and that's the way I used to play it on the Super Nintendo, and that's the way I'm playing it on the Analogue Pocket. Now, I say this because over the years I've had some like pads that they're not bad pads, but they're not good for Super Mario. And you know, one of my favorite pads, the M30, the 8-bit to M30, I can't play Mario on that because when I try and do what I'm doing there now, I end up hitting the spin jump button, which is which would be the X button on the SNES, you know, the one at the top north, or triangle PlayStation. So when I'm trying to run and jump, I'll end up hitting the spin thing. So if you're on Yoshi, you'll end up jumping off Yoshi. So Analogue Pocket, no issues like that. Controls are comfortable for Super Mario World. You know, if you're going to play Super Mario World on it, enjoy it. You're not going to have an issue with the controls. Right. Now this is probably my favorite game on the Game Boy Advance, Castlevania Arrow of Sorrow. I like the original. I like all the hacks. I've got like a little bit of a just a loop playing here. You might have figured most of my videos are just loops, but I've done that because I usually play and talk stuff live. But this was a little bit different for me. But what I want to talk about here, first of all, I'm going to reference the buttons like PlayStation ones, because between Xbox and Xbox and Nintendo controls, I'll get confused with because B and A are the wrong way around. So with PlayStation, you've got triangle at the top, you've got circle on the right, you've got cross at the bottom, and square on the left. So I'm going to use those references. So if you played modern Metroidvania games, you'll know that square is always attack in most cases, and when a cross button is your jump button. So now on the original Game Boy, it would be the cross would be your attack, and the circle would be your jump. But there's not 4 buttons on the machine. There's only 2 buttons on there, so you haven't got any other buttons, and that's a natural fit. Now, when you've got 4 buttons on there, your muscle memory might go towards the square button for attack. Now, what you can do on a Game Boy Advance Core, you can't actually do it on a cartridge section, which is a shame, but you can do it on the spiritualized GBA Core. You can allocate the buttons anyhow you see fit. So what I actually done was I tried allocating the attack button, so that would be the B button on the console to where square is, and I moved A over to cross. So square, attack, cross, jump. Now, in a lot of Castlevania games, what you're seeing here, what you've just been watching repetitively, it's just like a small jump up and attack. So what you end up doing is you kind of tap jump and you roll your thumb up to get the attack button. Now, you can do this. I'm doing it okay on it, but it's uncomfortable. It's just how the buttons are. The bottom buttons, they're kind of popping out, and the kind of top, the X, the cross and triangle, they're kind of they're inwards a little bit. So it's just not that comfortable. It doesn't feel that good. Try it out for yourselves and let me know what you think if you've got an Analogue Pocket. But I just didn't find it too comfortable. Whereas in other places, other things, you know, like the DS or something, when I'm playing like Dawn of Sorrow, I don't have any issues doing that particular move. I don't really have issues here. It's just uncomfortable. Like I'm trying to be as particular and as precise as I can, but it's uncomfortable. I don't know. It just feels a little bit off. So yeah, that's doing it in that manner. But again, that's not the default controls. That's me changing the controls because my muscle memory kind of always, on a 4-button pad like that with a layout like that, my muscle memory always takes me to square for attack. So for me to go to where the cross button is for attack, it takes a little bit of working to do that. Okay guys, so now putting the controls back to like the default. So if you ignore where the square and the triangle button are, just imagine it's a Game Boy Advance and all you've got is the B and the A button. So when I'm drumming it in that fashion, I'm again going back to PlayStation terms now, the circle, if I'm hitting circle, then I'm moving down to the cross button. It's very comfortable, very, very comfortable. Like it's much better on the thumb. You're not really, yeah, it feels fine. It feels absolutely fine. So I think I'm going to just kind of try and blank out where the square and the triangle button are when I'm playing Castlevania games. And I'm just going to try and think in my head that's a Game Boy. And hopefully I can get around it because I'm definitely going to complete the 3 Game Boy Advance games on this machine. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. And the first one, obviously, I've gone back to Circle of the Moon. And I'm going to try and complete that. So, yeah, man, if you're drumming it that way, yes, it's very, very comfortable. Okay, our next test is for the shoulder buttons. So this is Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, and the reason I chose this is because L makes you dash in the left direction, R makes you dash in the right direction. So good use of the shoulder buttons. Now, honestly, I have to say, like, this is better than I expected it to be. Like, I found it quite comfortable. Now, I can't say I've vigorously tested this because if I'm playing this, if let's say I'm playing it for like an hour and a half, like, you know, like a good session on this game, I don't know if this will get uncomfortable, and I don't know if it will get annoying in boss battles. As you can see, the way my hands are quite big, the way my fingers are there, I'm kind of rolling them a little bit to kind of access the L and R buttons. I can definitely say for sure that if I was playing a game like Street Fighter where I had to depend on like 2 shoulder buttons for the attacks, I'm just not going to enjoy playing it. I'm not a big fan of shoulder buttons, especially for fighting games, but this isn't really a machine I've got for, you know, fighting games. You know, that I've got other things for that. I might dabble a bit, but it's not its main use case. You know, L and R for like little like status things, or like, you know, bring up a menu or do something that's not kind of reflex based is cool. So yeah, maybe later on if I play it a bit more and I've got another opinion on it, I'll pin a comment here, or I don't know, mention it in another video or something. But first, you know, first impressions of it, yeah, man, it's actually decent. L and R are actually decent. But what I would recommend, like for example, if I'm playing a Game Boy Advance version of Street Fighter or King of Fighters, I am going to, rather than playing the cartridge or anything, I'm going to play it via the core, because then I can map the buttons anyhow I like. So what I would actually do is I would map L to where the square button would be, and I would map R to where the triangle button would be. So I would have all 4 as face buttons. So for Street Fighter, I'll have, like, you know, the light and the hard punch, and the light and the hard kick kind of like going over as horizontally as they can on that kind of shape. So you know, there are options there, but ultimately, you know, L and R, not bad. So in conclusion, the Analogue Pocket, overall great controls. Anything negative about the controls I have to say is nothing more than a minor inconvenience. It's a great device with very, very good controls. Definitely better than I expected. And I also realized that when people are, maybe when people are posting stuff on the internet, someone's always going to post something negative. If something's positive, they're too happy playing and enjoying the game, so they may not post it. Or maybe there was an issue with like the early builds. You know, I haven't got an early build. I got mine, like I said, like around about a week ago or even less now. So if you are one of like the guys that got an Analogue Pocket early and your D-pad isn't as good as this, please comment below and let me know. It would just be interesting, because at least then we know, okay, progress has been made to some extent, because like you saw, Contra played like flawlessly on this, absolutely perfect, like no issues whatsoever. So is this going to replace my Game Boys? To be honest, at the moment, I would say yes. I'm not going to be, you know, I really like taking my DMG around, more so because that was my first Game Boy. I love how it looks. I love the green filters on there, on the mod. I've even got like an unmodded one, but it's just too difficult to see in dark places. But yeah, I'm going to be taking this out for a while. You know, I will be doing some like 2-player on this, and I'm going to do a video actually of the different flash cards and cartridges and fake cartridges and what works, how the compatibility works when you're using a link cable. So that'll be for the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. I don't actually have a link cable for the Game Boy DMG, which is slightly different. Maybe I should seek that out and maybe do all 3 of them. But yeah, it's a very, very good device. Yeah, the D-pad's good. If you were put off by you know, the controls and the D-pad being bad, like I've just shown you what the D-pad's like. Make of it what you will. I've tried to make it as realistic and as accurate as I can. If I have made any mistakes, please forgive me, point them out in the comments, and I'll definitely, like, you know, highlight those. But yeah, guys, this kind of like wraps it up. Let me know your thoughts below. If you've not already subscribed to the channel, then subscribe. There's plenty of FPGA stuff, there's plenty of gaming stuff, and it will be nice to have you here. And yeah, you know, if you like the video, then hit that like button, help the channel grow. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Pixel Cherry Ninja out.